Hey, what is up guys? It's Mordant. Now, you guys might be hearing crickets in the background. I really apologize. It is morning and I really cannot wait to actually record this video because I have a ton of stuff that I'm doing today. But we finally got another gameplay reveal from Ananta and it reveals a few things to us. So in this video, we're just going to go over those. So let's get into the video. Now, real quick, before we actually get into the video, if you're not subscribed to the channel already and you're interested in news videos, challenge videos, discussion videos, and lore videos for any of the games that you can see on screen right now, then please make sure to subscribe to the channel. Ananta is still a TGS, which means that there's still going to be a ton of stuff that is going to get revealed, so make sure you are subscribed to the channel so you don't miss my coverage of that, and also make sure to follow me on Twitter because that is where I'll cover all of the updates first before I make my video. Also make sure to join the Discord so you can actually discuss these things with me. But with that being said, let's get back to the content. So for those of you who don't know, this gameplay trailer covers a mission that you're going to have close to the beginning of the game. But this mission sort of retcons the old trailer that we had that announced Ananta. So at the beginning of this trailer, we could actually see that it was Rain. By the way, that is her revealed name, but it was revealed that it was her that brought us to Nova City. But with this gameplay trailer, it seems like as though this is the first time that we're actually meeting her. So unless this happens before she takes us to Nova City, it most probably means that the story got a little bit reworked. I can't be sure because I haven't actually seen the story for myself, but judging from what I've seen so far, I think that is what is happening. And it's also very unlikely that this is happening outside of Nova City, because if you look around in the environments, like look at the train tracks, look at everything that is happening around you, it's very, very unlikely that this is outside of Nova City, unless there is another city outside of Nova City that you actually get to explore. But the likelihood of that being the case is very, very low. And so because of that, I currently have two theories on what is happening here. So the first theory goes like this. I think that this happens a little bit after the beginning of the story, but that part of the story that I was talking about earlier had already happened. And the reason why I think this is this. Lycaia knows that the MC is part of the ACD, the Anti-Chaos Directorate. So if that's the case, that means that maybe she was the one that brought him into the city, but they didn't actually know each other. Basically, they were just on acquaintance terms or something like that. And then when the captain got into trouble in this mission, she came to help him, and that's when they actually had like a formal introduction. That's my first theory. My second theory is that maybe they actually changed the story that they had in the game before, and maybe this happened during the testing phase that we had earlier in the year, the private test that no one was actually allowed to show footage of. Those are my current two theories. And since we're still on the story, let's talk about a little detail that I noticed in the story. So there's always something that has always confused me about the story. So if you look on the website, you'll get a little bit of description about the characters. Or even if you don't look at the website and you pay attention to the gameplay trailer that we got 2 days ago, you would notice that Taffy was talking about a paycheck. And it seemed like as though she was strapped for cash. But then it was a little strange to me because if she's a government official working for the ACD, then she shouldn't really be having money problems. So what exactly is up with that? So I think this actually explains it. So right here, I don't want to actually play the clip because I think the music might get copyrighted and I do not want to get struck down. So right here, we can see that the MC says that the ACD is shutting down. And if that's the case, that can sort of explain why it seems like as though Taffy and the MC are strapped for cash. It's a little detail. I just had to put it in. I wasn't sure, but I just had to put it in. By the way, while we're still here, during this gameplay, there were two things that I noticed that are not really that important, but I thought I would mention. One of them is that the car that Lycaia drives is the same car that Richie had in the other trailer. And in the video that I made talking about the details that you may have missed in that trailer, I mentioned that it seems like as though every character has their own personal vehicles. I also speculated that maybe this was also just a car that she had because she was a cop. And I think that's the case here, because since these two cars are basically the exact same thing, I think these are the cars that are given to high-ranking officials in the NCCA. Another thing to note is, during this part of the mission, you can actually see a taxi here. So that makes me curious to know whether or not it's possible for us to ride in a taxi, just like we could in GTA 5. Maybe that could serve as some form of fast travel that is available in the game. I don't know for sure, but that was something I noted. So with all of that being said, another thing that I wanted to talk about was the button mapping of the game. So this footage was recorded on a PS5, and it gave us a little bit of insight into how the buttons may or may not be mapped on the game. So let's talk about that. So at the beginning of this trailer, we see the MC fighting with members of a gang. Now this gang, in my previous video where I was talking about the details that you may have missed in the trailer, was supposed to be called Malice, but in this case I can now see them being called Metal. So unless there's like two different gangs, one Metal, one Malice, I think something got changed between the two trailers. I don't know what's happening, but that's besides the point. When we look at the fight, at the bottom right, we can see two icons there. And I think that these two icons represent your skill and your ultimate, which means that technically Ananta is taking the same route as most of the other gacha games that we've had that are open world gacha games. So we have square mapped to the skill button, and this is the skill of the MC, while triangle is actually mapped to the ultimate, if I am correct, of course. And this is the ultimate animation. We can also see that at the beginning of the clip, L2 appears next to this, which means that the button that we use to interact with objects in the environment to use them to actually fight against enemies is mapped to L2. If you also pay attention to the fighting over here, you can see that just before the MC does the takedown, the R3 button appears, which means that takedowns are actually mapped to R3. Now, I want to talk about these button mappings for just a little bit. Normally, in most modern games, fighting, or rather combat, is mapped to the square button, and heavy attack is normally mapped to the triangle button. But if Ananta has the square button as a skill button and the triangle button as the ultimate button, then does that mean that we use circle to fight? Because I'm thinking that X is going to be for jumping. I have absolutely no idea what is going on, okay? But I do think that we will get an idea of this as people get to play the game at TGS, since TGS has officially started. So if there's any update on that, I will let you guys know on my Twitter. So make sure you are following me on Twitter, and if you aren't subscribed and you're this far into the video, make sure to subscribe. But with all of that being said, that's where I'll bring the video to a close. Yes, it's a short video, I know. Like I said at the beginning, I have some stuff I'm going to do today, so I'm not going to be able to really make videos the way I would like. But like I've already said, stay glued to my Twitter. Every single thing that I see, I will make an update of right over there. And if you haven't subscribed to the channel already, make sure to subscribe. Join the Discord if you haven't already. All links are in the description, and I will catch you guys in the next video. Peace, guys.